Let me ask a tough question to you, Auda. You're with the government. You're a commissioner with the LADWP. I think everyone in this room understands that the Green New Deal is much more than just 100% renewable. It is about equity. It is about racial equity. Let me ask you the question. Can you sell that to the white people in LA? Are they going to buy that?
I think that that's a really good question, and not only to the white people in LA, but I think who we really need to change the minds of hearts to also, and trying to create a much more comprehensive narrative is also the labor movement, because the labor movement has been advocating for green jobs for so long, and the time is now, and that opportunity is here. And the Green New Deal is really a vision that gives us, it's kind of like, I see it as a canvas where we can paint the dream that we want, and that's the power that locally we have. And I think in Los Angeles and in a lot of other places, we need to really also, as we push for a much more renewable energy portfolio and a future, and a lot of places you see 100% renewables is the new tagline. We also need to bring our brothers and sisters from labor with us. Yes. Because in a lot of ways, we don't see eye to eye, sadly, and sometimes they even at the other spectrum, but this is the perfect opportunity where we can really revitalize an industry that has been dominated by white people, you know, the people in the renewable energy industry, and really help them also embrace labor. I feel like that's extremely important, and at the Department of Water and Power, where we have one of the most powerful IBEW, Electrical Workers Union, in the country, to having their support and to help them understand that we were creating good jobs that can take people that have been incarcerated and are in re-entry, that can take women, that can take people that have been affected by pollution and enter them into a new path to good jobs was extremely important. So I think that that's one thing. And now, my privileged people and my white allies, as I like to think of them, I think a lot of them, they love this talking point about the planet and the environment, and that is necessary, right? But I think we're clear that we need to have at the center conversation of all these changes the people that are most affected by climate change and by pollution and by the lack of jobs that we can generate right now with the green, clean economy.
Let me pick up on the labor aspect. So I think we've got a few things on the table. We can agree that it's about 100% renewable. We can agree that it is about equity in terms of racial. I think we can agree that this is a labor issue. But Jessica, let me take the labor side for you, because I know both you and I in our activist work have often been in community meetings where the union or the refinery sends uniformed workers to argue against everything we ask for. Now, you can speak to part of that is that they're trapped, that they have that job that provides great work and benefits, and they're afraid. And their union can send them all in a bus. So how do we bridge that gap between us going at loggerheads and bring us together as allies?
Sure. So one of the things I try to focus on is like root causes, like what's at the heart of this problem, right? When you break it down, it's the monopoly utilities, right? It's the employer, right, that's holding these workers hostage, holding our movement hostage, and impeding us from actually moving forward and working together. That's where the heart of it is. And I have to remember that when I encounter some very demeaning and mean, I call them bullies, and folks in labor. And the only way we've been able to deal with that is because of progressives in labor. You being there and holding your own accountable, and it goes the same for white people, holding your own accountable is the only way we're gonna get to the other side that we're trying to push for. So I don't want to get into too much of that. We have had success in the East Bay. I'm the coordinator of a group called the East Bay Clean Power Alliance. And we'd been advocating for a community choice program in the East Bay area, Alameda County. And we had some wins with labor. Actually, it was 2016. Very difficult discussions with labor heads, and specifically IBEW and others. But it was their own labor allies, specifically the California Nurses Association.
Thank God for the nurses.
And no surprise that it was women holding men accountable and making them face the reality that the only way we're going to get jobs, clean energy jobs in our community, is if they back off and work with us. That's right. And so that's what happened in 2016. We advocated together for what we call a local development business plan, which is actually a Green New Deal for Alameda County. And so we won that study. It was like $500,000 to do this study of how to create jobs, where to place solar, where to place wind, how to do energy efficiency so that you create work, reduce waste of energy. And it's just a comprehensive plan for how to do that, how to incentivize projects in communities like community shared solar, for example. There's so much more, and I want to talk about that. But I want to address what you asked earlier about what it isn't. To me, what it isn't is it's not market purchase energy. A lot of market purchase energy is filled with false solutions. Yeah. Carbon-free is a pitfall. Yeah. Carbon-free, large hydroelectric damming is carbon-free energy. Nuclear energy is considered carbon-free. If we commit to 100% on the market, we're committing to continuing that same burden and racism that destroys communities like mine, that destroys indigenous communities, that destroys complex ecosystems. So that's what it isn't. That I like to use that the analogy of apply the concept of local food to energy. Yes. And if you think about it that way, that's how we're going to get to 100% clean energy. If it's built here at home, if it's benefiting our local communities, making us be able to afford energy. I mean, really, it should be free. Yeah. Right? The sun is free. Yeah. But make it as affordable as possible and incentivize the communities that have been mentioned here on the panel. I'm going to stop right there. I could keep going.
Thanks. No. That was wonderful. So, Benjamin, I saw you nodding when Jessica was talking about what it isn't. Mm-hmm. How do we've been talking about what we like about it, how do we prevent our allies who are pro-nuclear, who want us to include hydro, who want us to include something they call renewable natural gas?
Oh boy. They almost got me with that one.
So how do we define the Green New Deal to prevent those kind of false solutions becoming part of it?
Well, that's a tough question. I'm not sure it comes in the definition of the Green New Deal. I mean, I'll just say briefly, the approach that we take is that the Green New Deal is really two different things fused together. It's a New Deal a la FDR that's based around addressing economic inequality, and it's a Green Deal for our planet. And they support each other and they synthesize with each other. And so we can tackle both problems by implementing one package that addresses both of those problems. And so I think that's how we talk about it as well. We talk about what are the problems that we're trying to address. And, as Aura mentioned and others mentioned, communities of color are at the center of it. It's like a Venn diagram, right? Who are the communities that have been environmentally devastated? And they are the same communities that have been most economically oppressed, right? And so they're at the center of these two things. So in any event, when we talk about averting sort of false solutions, I'm not so sure it's about how we define it, it's about how we organize around it. And I believe that our organizing around a Green New Deal has to be bottom up. It has to start at the localist of levels in our community. And when you organize in your community knows that building a nuclear power plant in your community is not the right solution. And so if we build this bottom up, then we bake the right solutions in from the very beginning.
Excellent. All right. There's another elephant in the room for me about Green New Deal. And if you take a look at this panel, and indeed if you take a look around the room, I think it's safe to say that the majority of us here are over 30. I was taught never to trust anybody over 30 myself. So here's the question, and let me personalize this a little. I only want to work with Sunshine Movement, with Justice Democrats, with Climate Strike Kids. I love all of you, but I am done working with adults. I've worked with adults for 30 years. That demographic has completely disappointed me.
Yeah.
So with our
Personally and
panelists,
professionally.
yes, can I say? So I want to know what efforts each of you and your organizations are taking to encompass and embrace the Sunshine Movement, the Justice Democrats, and the Climate Strike Kids.
Yeah.
And I also want to know how powerful and vital to this Green New Deal do you think the youth groups that I just mentioned are? So let's start with you, Ada.
Absolutely. So in Los Angeles, the Sunrise Movement was so important to our fight to get the 3 gas plants, Scattergood, Hines, and Harbor, to retire this year. It was really them leading the way to push the Department of Water and Power and to push Mayor Eric Garcetti and to and to work with this inside-outside strategy to really take us there. So I couldn't address or highlight enough the importance of youth. I mean, but it was not only them. I saw at my meetings, as a commissioner, I got to hear the public comments, and I saw so many other youth of South LA coming to speak about what happens in their communities, representing, their own organizations like Communities for a Better Environment and other organizations that came to also say, these gas plants affect my community, and we need, the green jobs, we need reduced pollution, and we need to be at the center of the conversation. So I couldn't be more excited also to see young people participating in this movement. We need them. And it's our duty to also let them do it the way they want to do it. I feel like that's very important.
So are you willing to let them lead?
Absolutely. I mean, I have. And even for me, as someone that was kind of working on the inside, right? Like as a commissioner, I was the decision maker. You're laughing because you know what I'm talking about. Like as a decision maker, I explained to them, the internal dynamics. And I was like, go do what you think is best. Because, a lot of us have an institutional knowledge. I have been organizing since I was 11 years old. I'm 40 years old. It's been a long time. But, times change. And they want to organize in a little differently. And they were very skillful with, like, for example, social media. They really utilized social media to speak to a constituency that wouldn't have never known that we were really fighting this, like, huge giant, And they participated on a roundtable, what we like to organically call the LA 100. So how do we get, LA to move forward? And I feel like we need to learn how to uplift the voices of young people and let them lead and give the space to them to also lead.
Excellent.